It was a dark and stormy night. Not really. It's just that I wanted to start the story that way. I'm Joe Friday. No relation to Jack Webb from the old Dragnet series, though I am a detective. I got home one evening and my wife Megan told me that we had received an invitation to my college reunion. They were going to have a Halloween-themed party, and everyone would be in costume. I wasn't very excited to hear that. Megan dated very few of my college friends. It wasn't a part of my life I wanted to share with her. We met shortly after I graduated college and entered the police academy. She worked at a local grocery store as a cashier, and what struck me was that she was quite naive and seemed so innocent. She was so different from the college girls I had dated. I started walking up to her cash register every time I went into the store. She was so cute, and I loved teasing her. I would make up stories about finding dead bodies, and she would believe everything I told her. Then I'd tell her the truth, and she'd laugh and hit me. I asked her out, and she agreed to go out with me. She told me that she would feel safe with a police officer. After a year of dating, I asked her to marry me. Before she said yes, she asked if I was kidding because if I was, it wasn't funny. "I'm not kidding, Megan. I love you and I want to spend the rest of my life waking up next to you." She agreed, and we've been happily married ever since. We now have 2 children, Amy, who is 4, and Joe Jr., who is 2. We call him Joey. I have to talk a little bit about my high school and college years. In high school, I was an athlete, and a very good one at that. There wasn't a sport that I couldn't play. I ended up getting a scholarship to play rugby at one of the Ivy League schools. Without the scholarship, I never would have been able to afford to go there. As a young man, I was a very lustful bastard. I was willing to fuck any girl or woman if she was ready. My moral compass was definitely not the best. My rugby mates were almost as bad as I was. One in particular, Dean, was even worse. Most of my teammates were rich. They all had nice cars and wads of money, which they often used to get out of trouble. I, on the other hand, was considered the quiet one. Because I was one of the best players on the team, the rich players became friends with me. Lack of money wasn't a problem because Dean always offered to pay for me. He used to say that my shyness attracted girls. There are 2 forms of rugby. In rugby union, no more than 15 players can play at a time, while rugby league has 13. We were part of rugby league and were a close-knit group of guys. As I said, most of them were horny bastards like me. We had a lot of girlfriends, women who followed us everywhere. The funny thing was that they were very good-looking women who just wanted to have fun during college. When we threw parties, dozens of women would show up. To be honest, I would have to say that I had sex with dozens of beautiful women. Some of my rugby buddies ended up marrying some of our Wilder followers, knowing that they had been screwed by many of us. I had sex with these people in 2s, 3s, and foursomes. Dean, our captain and self-appointed leader, married Anna, who was a beautiful woman. She had modeled part-time during college and liked to show off her body. By the time I graduated from college, there was no longer a need for me to share women. Most of my rugby teammates had graduated and gone into different professions. Many went into the family business. As for me, I enrolled in the police academy and did my best to put my reckless past behind me. Every now and then I ran into some of my old friends. It was a little hard to look at some of their wives knowing that I had sex with them. I believe many of them have put their past behind them as well. When I talked to a few of the wives, they told me that they went to college to have a good time and find a rich husband. I think they accomplished their goal. A few times while I was with Megan, I ran into a couple and the guys would banter with her, saying I was a shy guy that the ladies loved. I don't think she really got the point, thinking they were all joking around the same way I was. I know a couple guys said they wished she had joined our parties when she was a student. I know Megan felt honored. The last thing I would do is share Megan. She was the best thing that ever happened to me. Megan is a real sweetheart. She looks great and is friendly with everyone. She is short, 5 feet tall and somewhere around 110 pounds. She looks much younger than her 30 years. She's a natural blue-eyed blonde who always seems genuinely happy and rarely argues. She is also a great mother and just a happy person. We have a great marriage and 2 wonderful children. We are constantly involved in family activities. Being a police officer, I know how bad things are in the world, and I will do anything to protect my family. Megan's mother looks after the kids while Megan works part-time. I wish I had gotten an invitation to the party. I would have ripped it up and thrown it away. These were not the friends I wanted around my wife. I hoped there were more of them. Since we didn't go out much as a couple, Megan really wanted to get to this Halloween party. Dean and Anna organized the party at an old funeral home. They hired a DJ who played music from our times and organized the food. It was mostly finger food, but every kind of finger food you could think of was decorated in a Halloween theme. Drinks could be brought in as there was no bar. Dean asked for a meeting with the 6 couples to explain and offer more ideas for the party. He talked about the venue, the costumes, and the party itself. I couldn't make it to the meeting, but Megan went to it without me. I wasn't thrilled about it, but she said it was nice to meet some of my old friends. The party was a month away, and Megan was all excited. She started talking to Anna on the phone about costumes and other things. I hated talking to people from the days when I was preoccupied, but what could I do without telling her about my past? I could only hope that Anna wouldn't say anything. After that party, we never had to see those people again. Megan came home one day and said her car had broken down again. It had been uncharacteristically unreliable for the past few months. She said she was tired of constantly having it repaired and wanted a different car. I explained to her that we didn't have the money for a decent down payment to buy another car. She told me that Anna has a friend who owns a used car dealership, and he had a used Nissan for sale. She had already looked at it and decided it would be perfect for her. "Megan, we don't have the money for another car right now. We can fix up the old one and maybe buy one when I get my bonus at the end of the year." "Joe, all I need is a $600 down payment along with my old car, and I can pay $200 a month for 3 years. "That's not the point. We don't have $600 right now. The holidays are coming up and money is tight. Like I said, maybe after the first of the year when I get my bonus. I'm sorry, honey, but we just don't have a down payment." "If I have a down payment, can I get the car? This is really the car I'm looking for." I realized she was pissed off and wasn't going to stop talking about this car. She really wanted this car, so I said, "Sure, if you can get a down payment and you have to make the payments out of your paycheck since mine is used to pay the rest of the bills." Honestly, I thought she would forget about the car for a while. She was pretty balanced when it came to expenses. She kissed me and thanked me half a dozen times. A few days later, she had a new car, at least new to her. She was a happy woman. I wondered where she had gotten the down payment. She said she had asked for an advance at work and her boss had given it to her, and I had no reason not to believe her. I was starting to get a little worried that Megan had fallen under Anna's influence. She said they talked on the phone about the party every few days. I didn't want Megan to get close to Dean or Anna. I really didn't trust them. One night, Megan wanted to discuss our costumes for the party. I loved her very much, and if she wanted something, I did my best to please her. She said that Anna had lent her a nurse's outfit for the party, that it was a little short and quite tight, but she decided to wear it with a pair of white shorts. She tried it on me, and I have to say she looked pretty damn sexy. She bent over slightly, and I could see her firm ass. I told her she'd better wear shorts under it or find another outfit. I'm really lucky to have such a sexy and sweet wife. She asked me what I was going to wear to the party, and I said I wasn't sure. I was actually thinking of going in my police uniform. I haven't worn it much since I became a detective. She didn't really like the idea, but it would be a simple costume. I told her that I had work scheduled the day of the party and could stay a little late. The day before the party, I saw Anna at the market. I went in to buy some drinks for the party before I went home, and she looked as sexy as ever. She asked me if I liked Megan's car, and I said it was nice. She said she asked Dean to give her $600 for a down payment, and he happily agreed. I tried not to give away my surprise, but I knew I would have to ask Megan why she borrowed the money, and then lied to me about where she got it. Anna asked me if we could get together again. She said she knew Dean wouldn't mind since he had his eye on Megan. They became swingers even after they got married. "No, that's not going to happen. I admit you were the best I dated in college, but I'm married to Megan now, love her very much, and will be faithful to her." Anna held out her hand, smiled at me, and told me that this was my defeat, and she would see me at the party. It bothered me that Megan had gotten the money from Dean. It sounded like it was a gift, not a loan, and I knew he didn't give women money without some sort of benefit. For the first time since we'd been married, I worried if my wife was cheating on me. I decided I had to talk to her when I got home, even if I had to tell her the truth about Dina and Anna. By the time I got home, it was getting dark. Megan had left me a note saying that her mother had the kids and she had gone to show Anna her costume. I didn't think it was true because I had just talked to Anna and she had never mentioned seeing Megan. I remembered that Anna had told me that Dean was at the funeral home to finish getting ready for the party. I headed toward the funeral home and noticed Megan's car in the parking lot. My worst fears were coming true. Megan was alone with Dean. I wasn't sure if I should rush over there or wait and see what was going on. I walked through the back entrance to the main room where the party was to be held. Just before I entered the room, I saw Megan in her nurse's outfit, but she didn't see me. I waited, eager to see what would happen between Megan and Dean. "Where's Anna? I was going to show her my costume," Megan asked. "She's not here, it's just me and you, honey. I asked Anna to get you." He laughed caustically. "I need a favor for the money I gave you. Damn, you look sexy in that tight outfit. Come here and let me feel you up." "No, you said if I slept with you once, that's all you'd ask of me." "I've changed my mind. Besides, Joe has had Anna many times, and you'll only have to give yourself to him once. Now get your tight little ass to her, or I'll tell Joe how you cheated for $600. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My sweet little wife had done this for Dean, all for the car. I watched her as she approached him. "Promise this will be the last time I have to have sex with you? If you tell Joe, I promise I'll kill you if he doesn't." Dean laughed. "Sure, I promise." I froze. My sweet little wife was going to let Dean sleep with her. Now I was left wondering if this was the only time. I was literally dumbfounded. My mind was racing. Would I really run in there and beat the crap out of Dean? What am I going to do about Megan? She wasn't innocent either. I decided to leave it alone and deal with it later. "Promise me this will be the last time. I love Joe and he would kill us both if he found out I had sex with you. I wish Anna and her friends had never told me about sleeping with Joe. I had to ask him if it was true. I guess he never told you what a girl hunter he is. By the way, I'll decide for myself if you and I are going to have sex again or not. Please, I'll give you your money back. I won't do it with you again. I don't know how I can face Joe after this." "I don't want the damn money, honey," he said, pulling her to him and kissing her roughly. She pushed him away and he laughed. I knew she liked sex, but I didn't like seeing her with another man. I watched her walk out the front door and into the room. When he saw me, he was already pulling up his pants. "You'll never touch her again, Dean. You crossed the line with her. She's not only my wife, she's my life." He looked at me in surprise. "What the hell are you doing here? Look, you've slept with my wife dozens of times, and I got in over my head once. What the hell is the big deal? You gave me your wife of your own free will, and you weren't married at the time. I can't let you get away with that. She was consenting, and you know it. You should have given her the money for the car." He laughed again. "You'll never touch her again," I shouted at him. I picked up a sickle from one of his Halloween displays and stabbed it into his belly with a swing. Then I punched him hard in the face, knocking him to the ground. He wasn't laughing now. I opened the coffin that stood against the wall and put his body in it. I turned him over on his back, and when he said, "No, please don't do this, I'm sorry," I slit his throat so he would bleed out while in the coffin. Now it was up to me to clean it up. First, I wiped my fingerprints off the sickle. I closed the coffin and put a note written in blood. "Don't open it until midnight, or you will suffer the same fate." I looked around. Everything was ready for the party. Anna was usually in charge, but she'd probably wonder where Dean was. I had to figure something out. Looking around, I found the VCR, which was still working. He'd made a video while he was having fun with my wife, and he had another disc, dated a week earlier and titled Megan. I got curious. I took the 2 tapes and put the blank disc back into the machine. I took his suit as well. It was a soccer jersey with face shields and a helmet. The helmet had a full head mask with a picture of a dog on it and even a small speaker that changed the user's voice. I could use this to my advantage. I locked the doors and put my stuff in the car. I called Megan and told her I was on my way home. She said she had stopped by her mom's house and she and the kids were on their way up to the house. She sounded calmer than I expected. When I got home a half hour later, she had put the kids to bed and got rid of the note that said she was with Anna. She was getting out of the shower when I walked in. "How was your day?" I asked her. "Pretty normal. I did a little shopping after work and stopped by my mom's for a bit. Nothing out of the ordinary." She had her chance to tell me the truth. If she'd told me everything without too many questions, we could have worked things out. Now I knew I could never trust her again. "Megan, I have to work tomorrow, so I'll be at the party a little later if you don't want to go without me." "I promised your friends we'd be there. How late are you planning on coming?" "Probably a couple hours. Do you want me to pick you up here or meet you at the party?" She thought for a minute and said she would meet me at the party. I told her I'd wear a police uniform and a Joe Friday mask from the Dragnet series. She had no idea who I was talking about. She said she was tired and would see me the next day and went to bed. Honestly, I couldn't sleep with her that night. I decided to sleep in the room that served as my office. I turned on the first video of her thanking Dean for the money. He told her it was time to earn it and get on her knees. She knew what he wanted. She looked a little shocked, but she complied. I inserted the second tape and it started just before I arrived. She asked about Anna and he said she would be right there. So she did go to Anna's house. He showed her the party room and put his hand on her ass. "Please don't do this," she begged. "I can't be with you again. I'm happily married to Joe." She pulled away. "Where's Anna? I was going to show her my costume," Megan asked. "She's not here. It's just me and you, honey. I'm the one who asked Anna to call you." He laughed caustically. "I need a favor for the money I gave you." "Damn, you look sexy in that tight outfit. Come here." That's where I stepped in. I fast-forwarded the tape and erased anything that would incriminate me. For now, I hid the tapes, wondering if and when I would be able to use them. I didn't work late and was at the party when it started at 8. I was wearing Dean's outfit and I was a little worried that people would realize I wasn't him. Anna said it was time for me to come and came over to greet her friends. Anna was dressed like a prostitute and showed it off in all its glory. About half of the guests were wearing masks and I didn't know who they were. Others just had little masks over their eyes or painted faces. I saw Megan pull up to the house and the valet opened her door. She got out of the car, showing off her long legs. I wondered if she had put on shorts. She remembered to bring us drinks. She pulled a small white mask over her eyes. Only a few people would know who she was since she didn't attend our college. After looking me over, she approached Anna and they talked for a few minutes. Anna introduced her to a few women and guys and went about her hostess duties. I walked up behind her, slipped my hand under her outfit and grabbed her. "Stop it. I said no more. I love my husband." She was wearing shorts under her nurse's outfit. "Speaking of the cuckold, where is he?" I asked, hoping my real voice wouldn't break through. This was going to be a real challenge. "He's at work, but he'll be here soon. Please don't get me into trouble. What I did was a huge mistake. I shouldn't have done it. It wasn't worth the price I'm paying now. Tell you what, dance with me and tell me about your past and I'll keep our sex a secret. Otherwise, the first person to talk to Joe when he gets here will be me." She hesitated, but walked with me to the dance floor. I pulled her against me and started asking her about her past. She started to talk about her high school days, but I stopped her. "I'm interested in your sexual past. How many men you've slept with?" "Please, Joe doesn't even know about it. Who cares?" "I want to know how many men have been with you. Now tell me." Okay. I had 2 boyfriends before I met Joe. I was young and wanted to try. Neither of them did anything special for me. I was with them probably a few times with each. Then I met Joe. He was different. It wasn't just sex. It was more than that. He treated me with respect and at the same time made me feel special. There was nothing he wouldn't do for me sexually or for him. Don't you understand that? Being with you was a mistake. I was attached to the moment and to learning about Joe's past. I was angry and worried that he never told me. I'm so sorry. She pulled away from me and went to the ladies' room. A woman approached me and asked if I was Dean. She reached down and grabbed my groin and told me I felt like Dean. I was sure it was Maureen who was married to Ted. I told her she would find out at midnight. The party was going very well, and the drinks were pouring in rivers. I stayed as far away from Anna as possible. Only she and Megan knew what Dean's costume was. Shortly before 10, I slipped out the back door and walked across the lot to my car. I changed into my police uniform and pulled up to the front door. The door was opened for me by the valet. He relaxed as I put on my Joe Friday mask. Anna met me at the door and gave me a hug. Megan must have told her I'd be dressed as a cop. She grabbed my ass and said, "Still the best ass I've ever felt." I saw Megan, and she must have seen Anna grab my ass. "What was that?" She acted like she was angry, but after everything she'd done, her heart wasn't in the right place. "There's a lot I haven't told you about my past. I've been with a lot of these women, including Anna. That's why I didn't want to come to this party." "Why didn't you tell me about your past before?" Megan asked. "It wasn't something I was proud of, and you were very special to me. I didn't want you to think you were just one of many. Besides, you never told me about yours. I know you weren't a virgin the first time we were together when we were in our early 20s. I didn't know whether to hate her or love her. We danced, and eventually I took off the stupid mask. Almost everyone knew who I was anyway. I introduced Megan to everyone I knew. She told me that Anna had introduced her to many of them. When I introduced her to a woman, she would look at me as if asking if I had sex with her. Almost every time I nodded my head yes. A few times I shook my head no. After the third time, Megan asked me why not. I laughed. "I haven't known them since high school. I met them after they married my friends." "Megan, I've had sex with many women, but none after we started dating. I would never cheat on you," she said, needing to go to the ladies' room. She was probably feeling guilty. Anna came up to me and asked if I had seen Dean. She said he was wearing a soccer suit with a dog's head on it. I laughed because it sounded so funny. I told her I hadn't seen him, but he was probably sleeping with some woman in the back room. Anna seemed to be looking around for Megan. I wondered if she was part of a setup for Dean to screw Megan. Megan walked back to where I was standing, and Anna asked her if she had seen Dean. "Was he wearing a dog suit?" Megan asked. "Maybe an hour ago, but I've been with John since he got here." As befits a Halloween party, there was plenty of food and great costumes ranging from very scary to extremely sexy. The DJ was playing great tunes, and everyone seemed to be having a good time. I was wondering what would happen at midnight when the casket was opened. I noticed that some of the players had old habits returning to them. Every now and then, a couple would go to one of the back rooms. Anna went back there more than once. It was strange to me, but Megan never left my side. She only danced with me, but she said she was having a great time. She barely spoke to Anna. I think she felt she'd made a huge mistake and was trying to fix it. She didn't even mention Dean. Everyone asked Anna what the surprise was and why the casket had to be opened at midnight. She replied that she didn't know. Dean must have added that at the last minute. At midnight, those who still had their masks on did so. There were no particular surprises except that Dean wasn't there. Anna said we could open the coffin. She wasn't going to wait for Dean. Tim and Brad opened the casket together. Everyone who could see what was inside started screaming. Some thought it was a joke until they saw it was a human body and all the blood seemed real. I told everyone to back off, that I was really a police officer. I dialed 911 and told them who I was. Not 5 minutes later, we saw 6 police cars out front. A fellow police officer, Jim, came up to me and asked what happened. I told what little I knew after we opened the casket. Jim said he'd like to help, but since I was at the party when the body was found, I'd have to be questioned along with everyone else. I told him I understood. For the next 2 hours, everyone was questioned and then released. Jim told me that almost everyone had a similar story. They thought Dean was wearing soccer gear, but they couldn't say for sure. He told me that my wife, Megan, said she thought he was wearing a soccer jersey, too. I replied that I didn't remember seeing him. Megan was very nervous and asked me how I could handle this kind of thing day in and day out, especially since it was my friend. I explained to her that this is my job and after a while you get used to it. The body was sent to the coroner's office where an autopsy was performed. The cause of death was loss of blood when his throat was cut. The knife in his intimate parts was afterward. According to police, it was an act of revenge and rage. They didn't know how right they were. They searched Dean and Anna's house and found several tapes made over the past few years. Most of them showed Anna or Dean having sex with different people. They decided that they would have to contact the people who were on those tapes and question them. They started with the ones who were at the party. Anna told the police that she and Dean had an open marriage. Those participants whose spouses were unaware of their mate's extracurricular activities were looked at the most, as was Anna, since the spouse is always the first suspect. 2 weeks later, my friend Jim, who was heading the investigation, came to me and said he needed to bring my wife in for another interview. I asked him why, and he said that Anna told him that Megan had given him money, $600 to be exact, to use as a down payment on the car. Anna also told him that he expected to be compensated in the form of sex. She didn't know for sure if he had succeeded. Jim, Megan told me that she borrowed the money from Dean at Anna's request. That pissed me off, because I knew what kind of man Dean was. I asked Anna to tell him that we would pay him back soon. I actually took a check to the party to pay him back. I handed Jim the check and told him I didn't see Dean at the party to give him the check. I told him he could give it to Anna. He said he still had to follow up with Anna's accusations, and I replied that I understood him. As soon as I left his office, I called Megan and told her that I knew she had borrowed the money from Dean and told her everything I had told Jim. 20 minutes later, Jim and another detective, Aaron, showed up at Megan's office. And she told me later that she was surprised to see them and didn't tell me that I had called her. She told them that Anna had suggested she borrow money from Dean. She went to see him and he flirted with her, but she told him she was happily married to me. According to her, when she told me she got the money from Dean, I was not happy about it. She told them that I was going to pay him back from our small savings. I actually had a check to give him at the party. They asked her if he was hitting on her, and she said he was quite openly flirting with her, and she told him she wasn't going to cheat on her husband. He could have kept his money, but he did lend it to her in the end. I asked Megan if everything she had told the police was true. I wondered if she would admit anything to me. She hesitated and apologized for lying about the loan. She said Dean said it was a gift and maybe they could hook up sometime. According to her, she told him there was no way she would cheat on me. She tried to change the subject and asked again why I never told her about my past lovers. She was surprised when Anna told her how horny I had been when I was younger. That was my past. I didn't tell you because I didn't really want you to know. But you should know one thing. I never lied to you about my past, and I never cheated on you. Can you say the same? What does that mean? I love you more than anyone. You are my life. I would never cheat on you. She got up and started dinner. I felt really bad that she was lying to me. It was probably worse than cheating. I didn't know if I would ever be able to trust her again. For now, I needed things to stay as normal as possible. If there were problems in our marriage, we'd be scrutinized more closely for Dean's murder. For the next month, we had sex, but it was sex, not love. She never once said a negative word to me. Jim told me that all those leads went nowhere. There were a dozen spouses who had reasons to get back at Dean, but the evidence just wasn't there. I asked him about the time of death, and he said it happened the night before. It could have been either at 9 or 3 in the morning. All of the suspects had alibis, and in most cases, it was their spouses. People like that always support each other. They will continue to investigate, but will have to wait for a break. He said Anna was their #1 suspect, but they didn't think she could have done it alone. They didn't believe she had the strength to lift the body and put it in the coffin. Besides, she didn't grieve his loss too much. She would inherit a lot of money, and their marriage had become a farce. They both had sexual partners all the time. Jim told me that Anna claimed to have had sex with me numerous times. I explained that I hadn't been with her in years. Obviously, Anna and I did not have recent records. It had been years, although she had approached me recently. I forgot to mention that I had thrown Dean's suit into the river the night after the party. The only thing that connected Megan and I to the case were the tapes I'd hidden. Life went on, but it wasn't the same for me anymore. I actually spent more time playing with the kids. I even took them out without Megan when she had to work. I didn't think about her cheating, focusing on the business I was doing. I went deep into my work and even told Megan about the cheating wives I found mutilated. I told her how one husband slit his wife's throat. I had never told her such vile stories before, but I wanted her to know what happens to people who cheat on their spouses. Every time I told her one of these stories, I could see the pain in her eyes. It was 6 months after Dean's death, and things seemed to be back to normal. Megan told me that Anna had called her and that she had told Anna that she wanted nothing to do with her. She was happily married, and she was trying to involve her in her husband's death. I kept a close eye on Megan's whereabouts when she visited relatives and mostly went out with just me and the kids. She had lost some of the innocent happiness I always remembered. That's when I decided to try something different. I sent a tape of Megan to our house. On the outside, I printed, "For Joe's eyes only." Megan always brought the mail. When I got home that evening, Megan looked a little out of sorts. "What's the matter, Megan?" I asked. "No, just a bad day at work and the kids are getting on my nerves. I haven't even made dinner yet." "That's okay. I'll order a pizza and take the kids with me to pick it up." We picked up the pizza, and I looked through the mail Megan had prepared for me. There wasn't an envelope addressed just to me. I read the mail and watched a little TV while Megan and the kids went to bed. I looked everywhere for the envelope and scotch tape. Eventually, I looked outside, in our trash can. There I found the charred remains of the disc and envelope. No one could figure out what it was. Megan was still awake when I got into bed and turned to face me. "Joe, I love you with all my heart and soul. I know things have changed since your friend died, but I want things to be the way they were before. I know you told me you've had many other women, but I'll get over it. Right now, I need you to make love to me." I couldn't help myself. I still loved this woman. I made tender love to her, damn it. Why did I love her so much? Did she really keep her transgressions to herself? Was she afraid that I would divorce her if I found out about her affair with Dean? It seemed like our relationship was getting better. 9 months later, Dean's murder was still unsolved. We stopped talking to my old college friends. I knew it was a mistake to include them in my life. One day, after Megan and I made love, I asked her who else she had been with. I mentioned that she had learned about me from my former classmates. She hesitated and replied, "Who cares? I only love you, and I only want to be with you." "Joe, I had only had 2 men before I met you. They were boyfriends, and after meeting you, I realized they weren't good lovers. They meant nothing to me, and I want you to know that." I remember her saying the same thing when she thought she was talking to Dean at the party. "Was there someone else there?" I asked. She looked at me but didn't answer. She cried and went to the bathroom. After taking a shower, she came into the bedroom and lay on her side, hoping I was asleep, but I wasn't. I could hear her crying silently. I wanted to hug her, but my ego was too big. The next morning, I went to my room and pulled out the video of her and Dean together. I put it back in the envelope and wrote, "For Joe's eyes only." I took it to the post office knowing she would get it the same day and went to work. I called and told her I would be home late and asked her to give the kids a kiss before I put them to bed. The last thing she said was, "I love you, Joe." When I got home, Megan was sitting in the living room watching TV. She was crying, and when I looked at the screen, I saw that she was watching a tape. "You knew all along, didn't you? You sent me the first tape too. I can feel it in my gut. I wanted so badly to come to you and tell you the truth, but I was afraid you'd leave me and I can't live without you, Joe. Why did you do that? Then you came back a second time and let him fuck you." She didn't even ask me how I got the tapes. "At first I was mad at you for not letting me take the car. Now I realize how childish I was being. I dated your ex-girlfriends and they all told me how you slept with them. They described your lovemaking down to the last detail. I was so angry and embarrassed to find out what you did with them. Some of the things you never even did with me. I went to Dean and took his money. I let him treat me like a whore to get even with you. I wasn't thinking straight, Joe. After I left, I regretted it, but there was nothing I could do about it." "Why did you come back for more?" "I didn't come back. I got a call from Anna asking me to come and see the set. The message even told me to wear my costume. She set me up with Joe. I left you a note, but I threw it away when I got home." I knew she was telling the truth about the note. I'd never told her I'd seen it. "I got there and Dean said he'd take me just like you did Anna. All I wanted was to get it over with. I asked him to please not tell you. It would ruin my marriage and my life. I let him take advantage of me and told him that if he told you, I would kill him. But I didn't kill him, Joe. I didn't. I even offered to give him his money back. I just wanted to leave. I don't know where or how you got those tapes, but I didn't even know they existed. All I can say is that I'm sorry." She continued to cry. "You should have told me the truth about where you got the money from. He told me years ago that when I got married he was going to sleep with my wife. I told him that would never happen. Guess I was wrong. Joe, where did you get the tapes from? The last one was made the night before the party. My friend Jim asked me to look around the neighborhood for anything suspicious while he and his colleagues questioned the people at the party. I found the tapes and put them in my pocket. The first one had your name on it, so I took both. When I watched them, my heart burst. I love you like I've never loved anyone, and what you did to Dean tore me apart. I don't know if I'll ever get over it. Why didn't you give the tapes to Jim? Can't you get in trouble for withholding evidence? The last thing I want is for anyone to know about it, much less see it. Besides, that would make you look even more suspicious, and I know you can't kill anyone. Joe, you're going to divorce me when this case is over. I can't blame you, but I want you to know that I'm sorry about this, and I really do love you. Right now, I don't know what I'm going to do. The problem is that I still love you, but I don't know if I'll ever be able to trust you again. When this case is over, I'll think about what I should do. 3 years passed, and eventually the murder was filed away as a cold case. Now they have progressed no further than a week after the murder. We're not in touch with any of my old college friends. Anna has joined some kind of swing club and is rich enough to no longer work, but she remains the police's prime suspect. Not a day goes by that Megan doesn't tell me she loves me. We haven't talked about divorce since the last time we spoke. After she watched the video, she went outside and burned it. If she hadn't apologized so many times, or if I hadn't loved her so much, I know we would have divorced and become another statistic. I can't say that sometimes I don't think about what she did. But then, I snuggle up to her. She never refuses to have sex or make love to me. Strangely, she's never asked me if I killed Dean. Honestly, I don't know if I would have told her the truth. Like love, dislike happens at first sight, and just as causeless. Maybe this feeling arises at the level of chemical elements? I work in a network of hypermarkets, middle-level management. There are no personnel under my command. I mainly contact the external environment, and what happens inside the hypermarket almost does not concern me. After announcing my relationship with the saleswoman Tina, I wasn't afraid. I didn't flaunt it, of course, but I didn't hide it either. She's not my subordinate. But everyone already knew that we have been together for an hour and are planning a wedding. Not that anyone is particularly interested in this, but girls are such girls, Tina once secretly told one colleague, then also secretly to another. Third, in short, the result is predictable. The entire female part of the team knows. I think that if it weren't for my fiancé's unruly things, our relationship would have remained unclear for a long time. She comes to work before me on time and leaves earlier. Tina is cute. She has a good face and figure. Everything was always good in our relationship. We never quarreled, and we had sex almost every night. And then we had Keith. He got a job as a warehouse worker, engaged in loading and unloading, taking goods to the hall. At first glance, an ordinary guy, an ordinary face, sporty, a head taller than me and much wider in the shoulders, and he was very fond of women. Very soon it became known that he flirted with almost all the girls and women in the store, flirted wildly and very successfully. This could be judged by the fact that one or the other saleswoman began to spend more time with him, left work with him together. And after some time, suddenly everything ended, and all communication between Keith and his passion was abruptly cut off. It wouldn't have bothered me, and I wouldn't have paid attention to it, if it weren't for the fact that Kit didn't like me right away. He got into the habit of teasing me at every convenient opportunity. On occasion and without occasion, on any trifle. These teasings were not such as to cause a confrontation, but when he made jokes and quips in the presence of other people, I always felt uncomfortable. And, as it happens, I know in many people later, in solitude, scrolling through the memory of a conversation with him, I found witty answers. Express them there, I would embarrass him. But these witty answers came to my head much later. He could say, seeing my polished shoes, that it seems that the only physical exercise that I can do is bending over with a shoe brush, could poke him in passing about my musical taste, provoked the approving laughter of colleagues. And what does he say somehow, when I was talking on the phone, shifting from foot to foot, he blurted out to the saleswomen that if I really want to go to the toilet and I'm afraid I won't be able to run, adult diapers are in the hygiene department. And all the girls who were nearby giggled. Even Tina. Damn it, I'm probably slow thinking. It never once occurred to me to answer him decently, and thank God that I didn't try to answer. There is nothing more ridiculous and pitiful than being asked seriously to answer veiled jokes. I began to avoid crossing with him, and if he came across my path, I tried to change direction, go around. He seems to have understood it. In any case, he began to find himself in unexpected places, and his nasty jokes were indispensable. And then he found out about our relationship with Tina. I noticed several times how he was talking to her when there were no customers, and he was taking a cart with goods into the hall. He was apparently joking and flirting, and Tina laughed and twirled her curls with her fingers, exactly the way she used to spin when we just started talking to her. "Tina," I told her that evening, "we need to talk." And I told her about the hidden bullying that Keith is doing, about his reputation as a lover, finally, about the fact that he seems to be targeting her. I spoke frankly and really hoped for understanding. "Tina," I told her, "I'm asking you to stop all communication with him. You can call me paranoid, but I feel that he intends to do some kind of mischief. Just don't think that I don't trust you. No, I love you and trust you completely, but Keith, do you know that he has already seduced several girls from our store? It seems that this is such a sport for him. Baby, what are you doing?" My bride looked at me pityingly. "I love you, and I will not allow him any liberties. Don't even think about it. You have nothing to fear." She said that, and I should have calmed down, but I thought that the best thing would be to tell her that she would no longer communicate with him at all, and that she would finally tell him why. The next day I was walking down the main avenue of the store and saw Tina and Keith. They were standing pretty far away from her department. He was saying something to her and she was giggling. I know sign language, not thoroughly, but I've learned some of the poses and gestures in marketing books. Her posture was open. The toes of her shoes were invitingly turned up. Her shoulders were visibly back, clearly showing off her already large breasts, and she held the wrist of the other hand with one hand, showing him the palm of her hand. There was a decent distance between them, but at that moment I realized that she was no longer mine. Her posture could be described in one short word. Yes. I didn't let it show. I walked on by. I saw them talking 3 more times that day, all 3 times in different parts of the sales floor, but each time far from her department. There was no overt action, no movement, no hugging, much less kissing, just talking. But each time her postures expressed explicit prior consent. How did I observe them? I just came into the security room with a premium bag of chips bought at our own store. I told the guard that I mixed up the flavor, bought a huge bag, and now I don't know what to do with it, and I thought I saw him eating the chips. The guard excitedly confirmed that he really liked chips. I gave him the open packet, and as if in between said that I was preparing a marketing campaign and would like to see the behavior of customers. He gratefully allowed me to enter the observation room several times, and I, repeatedly entering, pretending with a clever look that I was writing something down on my smartphone, watched Tina and Keith. It was all a foregone conclusion. No, I tried to talk to Tina again that evening, but the conversation ended almost immediately after she blatantly lied to me about not talking to Keith today. I didn't know what to say anymore. I could say that I'd seen them, that she'd lied, but what good would it do? The line hadn't been crossed yet, and if I told her everything I knew, it might make her more cunning. There was a small chance she'd still resist, so I kept my mouth shut. I just waited, faintly hoping for that chance. Not that I was spying on Tina, but yeah, I did a little spying. When she left for work an hour earlier than me in the morning, I'd run into the store, go to security, mention in passing the research on customer behavior in the early hours, and watch Tina or Keith on the monitors. And I also tried to surround her with special care and attention, and love, and talked a lot about the upcoming wedding, the future. Well, at least I tried. She didn't come home from work on Saturday, or at least when I got home an hour after she was supposed to, she was gone. Just a text message about going out with her friends late at night. Basically, I figured it out. There was no proof, of course, but somehow I knew right away. And then there was proof. Keith sent it to me in the form of a link to a video in his cloud. Keith turned his phone camera around and, smirking into the lens, showed me, and I was sure he was filming the whole action just for me, his middle finger. Then the camera showed her again, and I saw him flick her nose lightly, getting her attention, and she looked up, sort of indignant, but not seriously laughing, the way girls get indignant when they're teased and actually like it. "Hey, we'll watch this video later and remember the good times," I heard his voice. "Come on, give me a smoochy smoochy." And she smilingly raised 2 fingers in the shape of the letter V and then stretched out her lips in a kissing motion. Although she didn't seem to know that her lover was going to send the video to someone, it looked like she was showing it to me. It was over. I mean, between me and her, and they were still going at it. As embarrassing as it is to admit, I couldn't tear myself away from the spectacle and watched to the end. "So," I heard his panting voice, "am I better than him?" "Better," she answered with a laugh. "Tomorrow I'll fuck you at work. We'll have time before he comes." It's dangerous at work," she tried to object, but he slapped her lightly on the cheek and said, "I'll decide when and where. You're mine now." It felt weird. I felt terribly hurt and somehow ashamed. I opened the closet and started shoveling out her clothes. About an hour later, I brought 3 boxes and a bag of her things to her parents' house, unloaded them at the door, rang the doorbell, and quickly ran for cover, waited for the door to open, and leaving her surprised father to look at the things, hurried away. I returned home, took out the bottle of gin she had given me months ago and had not drunk, and was about to uncork it. But suddenly a funny plan occurred to me. Keith would be grinning in my face at work in the morning, hoping that I wouldn't dare to admit publicly that I'd become a cuckold, much less pick a fight with him. And he'll probably brag about his victory to a couple of his colleagues, maybe even show them the video. And behind my back there'll be whispers and giggles both from those to whom he'll present the evidence and from those who'll enjoy the rumors. So where does that leave me? Quit? And go far away? But I had a plan in my head. I turned off the phone, turned off the doorbell, closed the door, and went to bed with improvised earplugs in my ears. So I didn't hear the knock on the door when she came back, or her screams. I didn't even know how long she had been trying to get into the apartment, and then the neighbors told me that her hysterics at the door lasted more than an hour, until she went somewhere. And I didn't care where she spent the night. And in the morning I arrived at work, leaving my car a block away just in case, entered the hall with a paper bag and immediately met Keith, who was predictably waiting for me, surrounded by several of his fellow loaders and saleswomen. They were all looking at me curiously, some mockingly, some sympathetically, but curiosity was evident in their gazes, and I lived up to their expectations. "Keith," I thought I gave a rather natural portrayal of joy. "Thank you. You helped me out. This is for you. Drink it. You can even drink it with my ex." I smiled widely, taking the bottle out of the bag. "Hey, it's not from our store. I brought it from home. Everyone's a witness. Keith, honestly, I don't know. I don't know how long I've been hesitating to break up with her, but my conscience has been bothering me. How can I? She doesn't give me a reason. If I tell her now that I don't like her anymore, that I'm sick of her, I'll think I'm such an asshole. And when I realized that you were hitting on her, I was so afraid to scare you off. I pretended not to notice. I was afraid that you'd figure out my intentions and wouldn't want to be an obedient executor of my plan. But you did a great job. You did a great job." "What?" He slammed his eyes shut. "What are you talking about? What plan?" "Well, I pretended to be surprised. You really didn't guess? Are you really so, clueless?" I pretended to choose a less offensive word. "That you didn't understand why I didn't try to stop your, affair." "Keith, darling, I've wanted to break up with her for a long time. You know that, don't you? She was out of my league, as they say. We were living together, but I felt like Michael Jordan playing against a backyard team. And I wanted to run away, but I didn't want to look like an asshole, not in her eyes, but in the eyes of the people around me. And even here, all of you," I glanced around at the crowd of onlookers, "would think I was like that. And now I have the perfect excuse to break up, and I've already done it, and you helped me do it. I looked around at the audience, who were eager to hear what was going on. "Did you hear that? I'm breaking up with her because she cheated on me, and no one dares to call me an asshole and an autocrat. I'm not getting rid of her for no reason." There was laughter, and the girls started to discuss what had happened, and I noticed that his partner, who was standing next to Keith, was holding his phone in his hand. It had a distinctive themed case, and on the screen was the video that Keith had sent me yesterday. "Oh, by the way," I exclaimed, "did everyone watch the video? Let me see." I took Jack's cell phone, and the guy let it out of my hand. "Now you have to see this." I felt a lot of excitement and trembling in my hands when I clicked on the icon in the folder. My fingers were not very obedient. I didn't realize that I had highlighted many files at once. I highlighted Send to All Contacts in the menu that popped up and clicked OK. Now, I mumbled, trying to pass the time and looking at the rotating loading circle. "It's ready." "Oh, I think I clicked the wrong thing," I said. "Now it's right." And I clicked play. Poor Keith. In 1 minute, his triumph had become a farce. What's more, after I had done what I had done, I suddenly realized that along with the video of my fiancée turning from my fiancée to my ex-fiancée, other video files had been sent to all of Keith's contacts, and who knows what was in them. I was holding Keith's phone in my hand, showing the video to everyone, and everyone was staring at it avidly, when suddenly I heard several shrieks almost simultaneously. "Did you send the video to all your contacts?" With horror in her voice shouted one of the salesgirls, looking at her phone. "All of them and my husband? Fake!" Another girl moaned after her. "And mine?" The 5 girls were hysterical a minute later, cursing at me and Keith. It all made sense. In this folder in his cloud, Keith kept other videos similar to the one that was playing for all the colleagues present, which were filmed his other passions, among them married ones. Oh, Keith turned out to be a catcher, as they say, did not miss a single skirt. The most interesting thing was that by the nature of his work, he had contacts of almost all the employees of the store and even some members of their families. And at these very minutes, these family members could already be watching the video and be unpleasantly surprised to learn something new about their wives and daughters. But even if not everyone had seen the videos, there would surely have been someone to notify them. I didn't see my ex until around lunchtime. She was pale and her eyes were red. When I met her eyes, I saw horror in them. I think it wasn't horror at me. I think it was horror at the whole thing. Everyone shunned her. Only a couple of the women who were hysterical about the videos sent to their husbands talked to her about something. The next day, Keith didn't go to work, and by lunchtime, the rumor was that he'd been beaten up badly by some hooligans, very badly, and he might not come back to work after he got out of the hospital. Broken limbs take a long time to heal, and several saleswomen went to work with a thick layer of makeup on their faces, and the makeup could not hide the deep sadness on their faces, enhanced by the bright shadows under their eyes. My flight was delayed by over an hour due to what the airline described as a minor technical issue. I have an aversion to flying anyway, so this didn't do much to boost my confidence. At any rate, it was a pleasant surprise to me that we, after an unusually bumpy flight, landed safely. With a sigh of relief, I walked out of the terminal building on a hot Florida afternoon and eventually got into the large air-conditioned limousine that was waiting for me. Although the thought of having to make the return trip in just a day or two was twirling somewhere in the back of my mind, I had more important things on my mind at the moment. I was once again very nervous as I climbed out of the car outside the hotel. I was in an unfamiliar city, in a country I had only seen in movies and on television, unfortunately mostly crime shows. Not the kind of programs that give you confidence in your safety when visiting these places, especially if, like me, you don't travel much. Anyway, as I got out of the car, I was somewhat relieved to find that Paul and Della recognized me immediately and spoke to me. "Hi, Mike. We weren't sure you'd make it in time. We'll get the luggage and send it to the room. Now you better get going. She's waiting in the lobby," Della said. Paul gave me a brief nod of greeting and headed to the back of the car to get my suitcase from the driver. I must admit, I hadn't expected the place to be so grand. The hotel lobby was gigantic, and there seemed to be several hundred people wandering everywhere. In reality, there were probably no more than 30 or 40. How the hell do they expect me to find a woman I've never seen in my life? God only knows. I asked myself as an extremely attractive woman suddenly appeared in front of me, dressed in a small red, obviously designer, cocktail dress, and holding a matching clutch in her left hand. "Mike?" she asked with a charming smile. Yes, Holly," I whispered back, somewhat stunned by her unexpected beauty. Under the circumstances, Holly was not what I had expected. Holly smiled again, but surprised me even more by hugging me and kissing me on the cheek. Overcoming the initial shock, I summoned up all my courage and returned the favor. "Sorry, it must be an English thing. We don't usually hug women we've never met before." By then, though, Holly and I had been emailing each other for months and talking to each other on the phone more than once in preparation for this little encounter. I really didn't know what to expect. "Did you have a good flight?" she asked. "No, Holly, I don't need any more flights," I replied, then explained. "A few years ago, I was involved in a very rough landing. In fact, it wasn't far from a crash. The airplane made a real mess, but I think the local scrap metal dealers were pleased. At any rate, it kind of shattered my confidence in air transportation. Had I known that such a beautiful lady would meet me here and I'd be lucky enough to spend an entire evening with her, then maybe the flight wouldn't have been so bad." "Thank you. I'm very flattered that such a handsome gentleman would pay me such a compliment." "It's not flattery, Holly. In fact, I find you so beautiful that I have to wonder how we ever got into this situation in the first place. I don't know if it was embarrassment or nervousness that made me sway like that. In retrospect, I usually never talked to a woman or flirted the way I did with Holly for the next 2 hours. Notice, looking back at what I actually said, I have to admit that most of the time I was talking absolute nonsense. My mother always said that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Maybe some people's eyes don't see what others see," Holly replied. "I'm sorry, but I found the last few months very depressing except for our correspondence." Holly smiled. "I thought the whole thing would really upset you." "Oh, don't think so, Holly. It was only in the beginning. But then I enjoyed our little emails and chats, and it became so necessary that I was really looking forward to it. Honestly, for weeks now, I've been looking forward to coming here and meeting in person." "Holly," I looked her over from head to toe. "If I'd known how beautiful you were, it's a hell of a surprise. I still don't understand why you chose me." "And who better than 34-year-old Mike Crosby, married to Avril?" Holly grimaced. "For 10 years now. They don't have kids. Rumor has it it's Avril's choice. Mike is a maintenance manager at a hospital near where they live. He hates that job, by the way." "God, you're so thorough," I exclaimed. "No, not me, Mike, but the people I hire. I have some pictures of you." Holly's face flashed with a questioning expression for a second, and another thing. "You look really smart in them. Maybe those pictures are the reason I chose you as my secret lover tonight." She smiled at me and winked slightly. "I think you're flattering me, Holly," I replied, smiling. Fortunately, at that moment we were interrupted by Paul and Della, the couple who had met me outside the hotel, coming over to join us. The boy took the luggage to the room. "Mike, now are you both ready for the big show?" Paul asked. "We always are. How about you, Holly?" I asked, throwing the ball in her court. "Yeah, I think I'm ready," she replied. I looked somewhat reticent, considering we were going through this whole charade at her insistence. "Look, Holly, you know you don't have to do this. Once we get in there, you'll realize there's no turning back. I can even go in there myself if you want." "Don't be silly, Mike. That would defeat the purpose of the drill, wouldn't it? Do you really think I came all the way from Montreal to miss out on the fun? Come on, be brave." "So, shall we go?" Holly said, taking my hand, but then she looked at Paul and asked, "Intimate enough?" I guess I should have felt awkward, but for some reason I didn't. Come on, guys, married or not, you all know what it feels like when a beautiful woman gets a little closer than she really should. We all have instincts that can, if you let them, take over in circumstances like this. My baser natural instincts definitely took over. Although I was very nervous, I couldn't think of any reason to try to control them. "Yeah, come on, guys. You two lovers, you're having a secret date away from your spouses. Make it look right," replied Della in a voice like a movie director. Without my permission, Holly put her left arm around my waist and her right arm around my waist. Then she pressed herself very close to me. Normally, I would have thought close to the point of awkwardness. "Yeah, here's the ticket. Go ahead and try it, and don't forget all those gooey eyes." Della giggled. "It won't be that hard," I replied, looking at Holly beside me. "Hey, watch out, Holly. Looks like our Mike is out here on the hunt," Della commented. Holly didn't answer, or rather couldn't answer, because when I looked down at her, she caught me off guard again and kissed me on the lips. "Sorry, Mike," she said, sensing my embarrassment. "I should have asked, but I need to make sure my lipstick is convincingly smeared." "Holly, when you want to smudge your lipstick, don't ask. Maybe I should apply for a full-time job as a lipstick smudger," I said, and kissed her. "Yeah, well, it's not every day you get a chance to kiss a woman as beautiful as Holly. Married or not, I'm only human." "Sorry to interrupt you guys, but are we doing this or not? Because if you want, we can skip right to the bedroom scene." Della laughed. "Maybe later on," Holly whispered to me, giggling, before tugging lightly on my waist and dragging me in the direction of the hotel lobby. Despite all her demonstrative bravado, I could sense that Holly was almost as nervous as I was, so I took the remark as nervous chatter. Entering the living room was a bit of a disappointment, really. The place was pretty crowded, but I'll add that I noticed a few guys showing much more than mild interest in the stunning woman in the little red cocktail dress snuggled against my side. Not that I could blame them. I was having a hell of a hard time not looking at the incredible cleavage Holly was showing off in that dress. I think I strutted around looking as important as the cat that ate the canary. It had been a long time since I had been so proud of the woman I was escorting. Paul and Della took the lead and we followed them to a table against the wall. The waiter came over and we ordered our drinks, and I found sitting with my back to most of this room uncomfortable because I could only stare at the stage where a small orchestra was playing. I actually wanted to scrutinize everyone in the place, but that might give the game away. Our drinks arrived and the four of us made small talk, mostly about my delayed flight. "This isn't good. I think we're going to have to up the ante," Paul said. "Didn't they see us?" Holly asked. "Too immersed in themselves. I don't think they've said a word to the others since we came in. Go on, you two. Mind your own business." I held out my hand and Holly took it as we both stood up. "I have to warn you, Holly, that I'm not Gene Kelly." I warned her. "I'm sure you can handle it, love," Holly replied with a grin. "Love?" I asked. "But that's what you're supposed to be tonight, isn't it?" "Oh, yes. It's a damn shame we have to play these silly games, isn't it?" "Who's playing?" Holly said, winking at me, wrapping both arms around my neck and pulling me to her. "I wish," I thought to myself. "God, if the guys in the office could see me now." It was already the third set since we'd arrived, and they were playing slower. "Oh my God, did I really do that?" Holly asked, squeezing into me. "I'm sorry, but desirable women usually do that to me," I replied, blushing slightly. "I can't say we actually danced, literally. We just swayed in the same spot, slowly twirling around. I have to say it was one of the most enjoyable dances I've had in years." Suddenly, another couple pushed us slightly. "You've been spotted," Paul whispered. "Be careful. You might look the wrong way. Concentrate on the dance." I looked at Holly again, who was smiling charmingly back at me. "Holly, you're one hell of an actress," I thought to myself. "You know, I hope the balloon doesn't go up too soon. I like that," I told her. "I can feel it, love," she said with a cheeky grin and then pressed herself even tighter against me. "I wonder, Holly, if you have sadistic tendencies," I remarked, smiling. "I like to tease, Mike. This evening was the best joke I could think of." I don't know what expression appeared on my face, but it made Holly laugh out loud. I only wished I really was the person she was really teasing, but I knew the good Lord could never look at me so favorably. "Oh, don't look so dejected, Mike. After all, you don't have to rush back to the UK, do you? We can always take a few days to enjoy the Florida sunshine. Now that we've been spotted, let's make it look really good." Next thing I know, Holly's head is resting on my shoulder and she's chewing on my neck and earlobe. "Hey, take it easy, girl, or I'll have an accident," I warned. Holly giggled back and, more importantly, didn't stop her manipulations. She doubled down on them for that matter. Much to my relief, the band's performance ended before I lost control and we returned to our table. Holly was walking, holding my hand and dragging me along behind her. When we got closer, Paul gestured for us to sit down, but his eyes were fixed on something that was happening across the room. "That's right. He's on his way. When he comes over, you can stand there and argue with him, but don't raise your hand at him, Mike. We can handle any rough stuff. That's what we're paid to do," Paul said, stepping forward. "Is she coming?" I asked. "No. You know, I don't think she realized it was you. That's if she saw you at all. She was standing with her back to the dance floor. But she's watching intently now, so she'll probably spot you as soon as you stand up and turn around." "What the hell is going on here, Holly? What are you doing here, and what the hell are you playing with that asshole? Who is he anyway?" asked an angry voice from somewhere not far from my left shoulder. I stood up and turned to face the guy. "Holly was dancing with that asshole, just like you no doubt danced with my wife." Well, yeah. At that moment, that was the best I could think of. I didn't know what I was going to say when the confrontation started. Holly, on the other hand, who also stood up, had obviously rehearsed her little speech well. "And he'll probably have me later while you're sleeping with his wife in room 642. By the way, we have 643 right across the hall, but we'll try not to make as much noise as you two did last night," Holly said with a smile on her face and put her arm around my shoulders. I really could have done without Holly at that moment, because her husband, who was much bigger than I thought he was, might well have pounced on me, and Holly hanging on to me limited my maneuvering. But I really didn't have to worry about him. Avril's appearance on stage, I suppose after she'd spotted me as soon as I stood up, was much more, exciting. Honestly, Avril came out of nowhere and hit me in the forehead, obviously on the run. Effectively knocking Holly's husband off his feet, she pushed him out of the way. In a way, it was convenient because it took away some of Avril's momentum. Holly's husband lay down on some poor woman's lap before he fell to the floor. Notice I didn't see this. I was lying on the floor myself, looking at my very angry wife. I think the fall to the floor shook Avril up a bit, as it did me. Anyway, she ended up lying on top of me, looking me in the face. "What the hell were you doing with that slut?" she asked demandingly. "Dancing, as you can see," I replied, still without the jazzy cuteness. "It looks like you were trying to sleep with her," she objected. "Come on, Avril, I just got here. I haven't had a chance yet. You've been sleeping with her husband for at least the last 2 days. I was pleased with myself. I had taken my first good shot. "Yeah, but..." "Don't be so stupid, Mike. Where did you get this stupid idea?" Avril said, rolling off me and sitting up. "How did you even get here? You don't fly, do you?" "Yes, but not when I want to catch my wife with her lover," I replied. I was getting good at this back-and-forth stuff. "That's bullshit, Mike. You know I'm here on a business trip. Avril, your business trip was to Houston. It's freaking Florida. You and your company have no business being here in Miami. You had a meeting in Houston, and then you flew here, and you've spent the last 2 nights horizontal tangoing with that creep in room 643. 642 lover. 643 is our room." Holly's voice corrected me from somewhere. "Yes, sorry. Room 642. Do you want to see the tapes, Avril?" I asked. I had no idea if Holly had any tapes from this trip, but I knew that she had many from their previous dates. I figured Avril wouldn't really want to see them. Avril just sat on the floor and looked at me. I have to admit that this was the first time I had ever seen this woman speechless. No, not like that. I remember the first time I slept with her before we were even married. By the time I was done with her, she was lying there, speechless. I always thought I'd shaken all the chatter out of her. Well, it wasn't a disappointment to her. She came back for more the next night and eventually married me. What a shame. Suddenly, someone's hands helped us to our feet, and the next thing I really realized, besides Holly's arm around my waist again, was Paul saying, "Morgan Ardent, you're served." And he handed Holly's rather disheveled husband an envelope. I wonder what I missed that made Morgan so disheveled. Paul then quickly did the same to Avril. Although our British divorce petitions don't really have to be presented as formally as the Yanks do, I could send them by registered mail, I guess. Holly and I just figured it would add a bit of spice if it was done officially and at the same time as the papers were handed to her husband. The two guys who followed the two lovers along with the rest of the company were then handed the papers. Holly took care of everything. Avril and Morgan worked for an American company, so we both sued her in the American courts for turning a blind eye to what was going on with the couple. Their bosses, who were served papers, had their girlfriends too, so I think the bloody company must have turned a blind eye to everything. Eventually, Paul filed a lawsuit against Morgan Ardent for alienation of affection, which Holly's lawyers filed precisely in the American courts on my behalf. It had been years since anyone had successfully done such a thing in the UK. It ended as abruptly as it began. I really have no idea where or when Avril disappeared. Holly said she was led away in tears by one of her boss's girlfriends, but I didn't see her leave. I did, however, see Holly's husband being led away by two guys. Notice, not before he threw me a look that I thought should have turned me to stone. "So what now?" I asked Holly. "We're dancing," she responded with a smile and dragged me to the dance floor again. The rest of the evening turned into a bit of a party. I have no idea at what time the party ended. I'm afraid I had too much to drink myself. But I do remember a conversation we overheard in the elevator. One of the hotel staff was telling a couple how lucky they were because the hotel was full. But for some reason, the couple in 642 had suddenly checked out. The housekeeping staff was still in room 642 when Holly, Paul, Della, and I entered room 643. "Too bad. It takes away from the rest of the fun of the evening," Holly said. "I couldn't wait to see their faces when we walked out of that room together in the morning." "Maybe it's not such a bad thing. It might give their lawyers leverage in court," Paul commented. "Paul, I have enough information on what these two have been doing for the last 6 months to get 2 divorces. Besides, I have the prenup that my father insisted on. He never thought much of Morgan." "Yeah, but what about Mike? They don't have prenuptial agreements in the UK?" "I'm still screwed, Paul. My lawyer thinks it's going to be 50-50. The only light in the sky is that Avril makes more money than me." I said, "Yeah, I think heads are about to fly in this company, and Morgan and Avril will be first on the list. My uncle is a major shareholder, and he's already on the case." Holly informed us. "I had a hard time slowing him down, or we would have missed out on today's fun." "There wasn't really that much going on. Not a lot of fireworks. Quite an expense on your part, Holly, for something that could have been done at home," I said, voicing my thoughts. "Ah, Mike, the look on Morgan's face when you said he slept with your wife was classic. He had no idea who you were." "Did I say that?" "No, not in those words. You're too much of a gentleman." But I did, and the look on Morgan's face when he realized he hadn't caught me, or rather we had caught them, was something special. And then Avril burst through like a defender at the finish line. "The funniest thing I've seen in a long time," Holly said, and laughed out loud. God knows how long we chatted about nothing in particular, but eventually made it to bed. Oh, I better remind you that room 643 was a suite. I had one bedroom, and Holly had the other. When we went to bed, Paul and Della were sitting in the living room. When we got up in the morning, they were sitting there. Apparently, Paul was a court officer. I have no idea what that means. But I realized that the American courts would take his words almost as gospel, meaning he could swear that Holly and I didn't spend the night in the same bed. "So, Mike, what's your plan now?" Holly asked me at breakfast. "I'm not sure. I'm going home to lick my wounds," I answered. "Well, the lovers are gone. Why don't you and I fly to Vegas for a few days before you come home?" "That's a good idea, Holly, but I'm going back to the UK. I'm sorry, but adding another flight to Las Vegas is not my idea of a good time." Holly sat there, quite obviously thinking for a few moments. "Flying upsets you that much, doesn't it?" Okay, alternative idea. A close friend of mine has a house in the Bahamas. Why don't we go there for a few days? Don't worry. We can go by boat and you won't even have to risk me driving. I had to think about it, but not for very long. After crossing the Atlantic, it would have been silly to fly straight to the UK, considering I had almost 2 weeks of summer vacation left. I had to get back home because there was bound to be a real old ding-dong. The house was already on the market, and I'd converted everything to cash so she wouldn't empty all the joint accounts. Keep in mind that even though my lawyer oversaw all the changes I made, I still thought I was going to screw up. It was his job to keep me from going completely broke. Yeah, why not? A good ferry cruise should be fun, but can you just show up at your friends' houses uninvited? Of course, I have a standing invitation. I don't visit them as often as I should. What about dragging me along? Oh, they'll probably love you more than Morgan. They never thought much of him, Holly replied with a chuckle. What can I say? The cab dropped us off at what looked to me like a rather fancy boat or even a private yacht. It turned out to be some kind of charter fishing boat, and it had impressive acceleration. During the trip to the Bahamas, Holly spent most of her time sunbathing on deck in a tiny bikini. I spent time on the bridge, where the captain was supposedly showing me how to steer the boat, while we were actually gazing at Holly's slender body. "Daddy," said Holly, hugging the old man who met us on the quay. "This is Mike. That was his wife Morgan was playing with," Holly said, introducing us. "Hi, son," he said, shaking my hand and then Holly's. "I told you you could never trust that little shit, but no, you always thought you knew better. All right, Mike, let's get you home and change into something appropriate." I realized that my business suit was not considered appropriate attire for the Bahamas. At the house, a large, rambling structure that bore little resemblance to homes I'd been to before, I met Holly's mother, who greeted me like a long-lost son. Shame on my reserved English nature. When Holly's father escorted me to my room, though, things got a little official. Let's just say he made sure I understood where my room was, and that's where he and his wife expected me to sleep. You get the idea. The next 4 days were really enjoyable. When Holly and I weren't sunbathing or swimming in the pool, I was either fishing off the boat with Holly's dad, or we were at numerous cocktail parties in the evenings. At 2 of them, Holly danced with me, but she was somewhat more chaste than she had been that first night at the Miami hotel. On the last night before we left, Holly and I were finishing an evening stroll along the beach in the moonlight. We weren't in each other's arms, but she was holding my hand. We talked about how upset I was that my divorce was going to cost me the house I'd spent so many years remodeling to my taste. Avril always let me do whatever I wanted with the house. She just picked out the color scheme and everything. The extension and even the kitchen and bathrooms were always in my plan, as was my garage and workshop. God, how I'm going to miss that workshop. "Mike, I want to apologize," Holly said suddenly. "Apologize for what, Holly?" "Well, that first night in Miami, I got a little ahead of myself." "Holly, we were both very nervous about what was going to happen. I think we both drank a little more than we should have and said some things we shouldn't have. It served as a cover for our nervousness. That's all we have to worry about." "I know. But I'd hate for you to think that I would flirt with someone like that." "Shit, don't be silly, girl. I understand perfectly well. I have to apologize. I really didn't control myself like I should have." "Yeah, I noticed, big boy. Anyway, we're not the kind of people who give in to our baser instincts like Morgan and Avril, are we?" "Absolutely not, Holly. We've been together for almost 5 days, and we haven't even kissed since that first night." "Why do you think that is?" "I'm not really sure. You're a very attractive woman, and I enjoyed being your official lipstick. But we have to take into consideration that in a way we are both on what you could call a rebound. How many relationships are known that would have lasted normally when they started under these circumstances? Yes, I have to admit that they usually result in heartache for everyone at the end," Holly said quietly. "Besides, we're still married, Holly, even if our spouses seem to have overlooked that fact." "Yes, you're right. We're above that kind of behavior, aren't we?" "Unfortunately," I replied. "Does that mean you can't smudge my lipstick at least once before you leave?" "Holly, like I said, I'm pretty damn sure I'd be happy to apply for a full-time job as your lipstick smudger. Okay, I spent the next half hour or so watching Holly's lipstick smudge. By the time we got back to her parents' house, however, we were acting like rank good friends. The next day, the same boat took us back to the mainland with even more speed than before. Then Holly walked me to the airport for my flight back to the UK. Come on. I smeared Holly's lipstick again before getting on the plane. When I finally got back to the house, Avril was already waiting for me. Surprisingly, there weren't many fireworks. "Hi, sorry, Mike, I messed up, didn't I?" said a very depressed Avril when I found her sitting in the kitchen. "I just can't understand why, Avril. I thought we had a good thing going here." "Yeah, Mike. I just got caught up in my work. I'm really sorry that all of this came to me. I really didn't mean to cheat on you or anything. God, Mike, I still love you." "Yeah, so how do you feel about him?" "Hell, please don't ask. He flattered and seduced me. I acted like a stupid little schoolgirl. Did you, with his wife." "Avril, was all I had to say. Hell, I might have known you wouldn't do that. Now you're going to tell me we don't stand a chance, aren't you?" "You know me better than I know myself, Avril. When do you want me to move out? Or will you?" "Provided you don't bring any of your lovers here, Avril, we can both live here until the house is sold. That will give us both time to find some decent accommodation." "And the divorce? I'm willing to change the grounds to irreconcilable differences, provided we can come to an amicable agreement on finances. That should get us a quick divorce." "Take the papers and show me where to sign, Mike. I messed up, so I won't give you any more trouble," Avril said humbly. That's how it really was. The divorce went through within a few months. It didn't take long to sell the house. It had been on the market for less than 2 months when a real estate agent came along and bought it on behalf of his client. Strange guy never struck me as a real estate agent. At any rate, we never even saw the buyers or knew their names. After much negotiation, he even bought almost all the furniture. I was moving into rented furnished accommodation, and Avril, having been fired by her employer, suddenly found herself being hunted by another American company. She left England for California before the divorce was even finalized. I don't know, maybe 2 months later I got a call from the agent of the people who bought our house. "It seems my client is having some trouble controlling the central heating system, Mr. Crosby. We were wondering if you could kindly pop in to see them this evening and explain how to do it," he asked. "I don't see why they would have any problems. It's a pretty standard system. But then again, that damn electronic timer is a bit of a crapshoot to get your head around. Yeah, tell them I'll stop by tonight on my way home from work and see if there's anything I can do to help." "By the way, what are their names?" I asked. "Thank you, Mr. Crosby. I'll tell them to expect you around 7:30. Goodbye," he replied, and the connection went dead. That's strange. I remember thinking, how the hell did he know I was getting there at 7:30? That was the time I always came home from work when I lived there, and the bastard hung up on me without giving me his name. The garden looked pretty much the same when I turned into the driveway. That's if you ignore the little sign proudly informing everyone that the new homeowner was using some local gardening company to mow the lawns, etc. There were no cars in the driveway, so I parked in my old spot. With a heavy heart, I walked to the front door and pressed the bell button. It's very strange, you know, coming back to the house you used to live in and finding that you have to ring the doorbell instead of just putting the key in the lock and walking in. "Who is it?" came from behind the closed door. "Mike Crosby," I shouted back. "I came in to explain the heating system." I could hear all the locks and deadbolts I had installed on that door with my own hands being pushed back and opened. Most of them were for when we went to bed or left the house empty. I never expected anyone to use them all the time. Finally, the door opened, and a girl of about 18 opened the door and invited me in. "The landlady is waiting in the living room." The girl said it very precisely, as if she had rehearsed the line. Then she giggled and ran into the kitchen. After knocking, I opened the living room door. "I'm Mike Crosby. I believe you're having some trouble with the central heating?" I said to the woman with her back to me, looking out into the garden behind the house. "No, the heating is working fine, Mike. What I'm really looking for is someone to smear my lipstick on." she said, turning and coming into my arms. Epilogue. It's funny how things can turn out, but I never got to spend another night alone in my apartment. Holly and I got married less than 2 months later. I no longer work at the hospital. I am now a joint representative for Holly's father, along with Holly, in the UK and Europe. This guy gets involved in everything he can think of. To be honest, I'm a bit of a mess most of the time, although I do pick up a few things from Holly as I go along. Not that there's much to do there other than represent. I get the feeling that Holly's dad just wants to make sure I can afford to keep Holly the way she's used to. Anyway, in a few months, Holly's gonna have to stop chasing me all over Europe. Well, you can't carry a baby around with you, can you? No, I still wouldn't fly if I could. Honestly, life since we've been married has been like one long car vacation, a very nice one in a brand new Beamer. What do people call it? Oh yes, I think I fell on my feet and also fell in love with one of the most beautiful women in the world. Most nights when we go away, we spend in luxury hotels. I've realized that the nights are more exhausting than the driving, as I've found Holly to be insatiable at times. God only knows how Morgan found the strength to sleep with Avril. But Holly insists that I'm much better than Morgan in that regard. Perhaps he never gave Holly and her needs as much attention as she deserved. Mind you, sometimes I think my new wife has a really twisted sense of humor. One morning, I was coming out of our home bathroom and saw Holly saying "thank you" to a picture she had hidden in one of the dresser drawers. Then she looked very embarrassed when she realized I had seen it. I, of course, asked who was in the picture. "You won't believe this, it's a portrait of your ex-wife, Avril," Holly replied with a smile. "Well, Mike, you have to admit that if Avril hadn't let Morgan talk her into bed with him, I never would have found you, would I? I'll always have a soft spot for her, you know? Yes, that's a different way of looking at things." I walked over to the dresser and picked up the picture. "Thank you, Avril. I never would have thought that the way you run around me and cheat on me would eventually lead me to such happiness," I said. Then I put the picture back in the drawer and turned my attention back to the woman who really mattered to me. It must have been almost lunchtime when we went out for some fresh air again and went downstairs for breakfast. God, was I really that tired? Life goes on,